The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the empty space between star systems. It was bigger than most cities, with gleaming metal walls and bright lights that could be seen from millions of miles away. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its many ports every day. Today was special, though. Today the humans were coming. Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the window of her ship as it approached the station. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Behind her, Captain Marcus Chen checked his equipment one more time. Chen was shorter and stockier, with scars on his hands that told stories of old battles. Neither of them looked like the peaceful diplomats the galaxy expected. First time meeting aliens for most of the crew, Chen said quietly. "They're not aliens to us anymore," Vasquez replied. "We're all aliens to someone out here." The human ship was smaller than the others docked at Nexus Prime, but it was built differently too. Where alien ships were smooth and curved, the human vessel had sharp angles and thick armor plating. The other species had noticed this when humans first made contact 3 years ago. They built everything like they expected a fight. Inside the station's main hall, representatives from across the galaxy waited. The Zalani delegation stood together in their flowing robes, their blue skin shimmering under the lights. They were the diplomats of the galaxy, always talking and making deals. Near them, the Korthak merchants checked their data tablets constantly. The Korthak looked like giant crabs and cared only about profit. In the corner, the Vax Empire soldiers stood at attention in their black uniforms. The Vax were warriors who respected only strength. "The humans arrive," announced a Zalani official as the docking bay doors opened. Vasquez walked in first, followed by Chen and 6 other humans. They all wore simple gray uniforms with no decorations except small flags on their shoulders. The aliens had expected something grander. Most species made a big show when they joined the Galactic Confederation. The humans just looked around the room like they were planning something. "Welcome, humans of Earth," said High Ambassador Korveth, the lead Zalani diplomat. His voice was musical, like most of his people. "We are honored to consider your application for membership in our confederation." "Thank you," Vasquez said simply. "We're ready to begin." The ceremony started with speeches from each major species. The Zalani talked about peace and cooperation. The Korthak discussed trade opportunities. The Vax mentioned mutual defense. The humans listened politely but said little. Chen noticed how his team automatically positioned themselves around the room, checking exits and blind spots. Old habits. Hours passed with formal presentations and cultural exchanges. The humans answered questions about Earth and their expansion to other star systems. They had been peaceful, the aliens noted. No wars with neighbors, no aggressive expansion, just steady growth and careful exploration. "Your military records are interesting," commented General Thix of the Vax Empire. "Very few conflicts in your recent history." "We prefer to avoid unnecessary fighting," Vasquez replied. "Weakness," Thix muttered, but not loud enough to cause offense. Chen heard it, though. He smiled slightly but said nothing. The main ceremony was ending when the first explosion shook the station. Emergency lights flashed red as a second blast echoed through the halls. Screams and shouts filled the air as aliens ran in panic. "All delegates to secure positions," announced the station's computer system. "Security breach in sectors 7 through 12. Armed figures in black armor poured into the main hall through 3 different entrances. They moved fast and knew exactly where to go. The aliens recognized the armor immediately. Purge Brotherhood, the galaxy's most violent extremist group. "Nobody move," shouted the lead terrorist through his helmet speaker. "All inferior species on the ground, now." Most of the aliens dropped to their knees immediately. The Purge Brotherhood had been terrorizing the galaxy for decades. They believed only certain species deserved to exist and used violence to enforce their beliefs. The Confederation had been fighting them for years but could never catch their leaders. Chen counted 20 terrorists in the room, with more voices coming from the corridors. Professional movements, good equipment, excellent timing. This was planned carefully. "You," the terrorist leader pointed at Korveth, "order all security forces to withdraw from the station. 1 hour or we start killing delegates." The Zalani ambassador nodded quickly. His people always tried to solve problems with words, not weapons. I will contact station security immediately." Vasquez remained standing. Several terrorists pointed their weapons at her, but she didn't move. "Human, on the ground," ordered their leader. "No," she said calmly. The word echoed in the sudden silence. Even the other terrorists seemed surprised. Nobody said no to the Purge Brotherhood. Your species will be purged anyway, the leader snarled. Primitive creatures who only learned space travel yesterday. Maybe, Vasquez agreed. But not today. Chen caught her eye and nodded once. Around the room, the other human team members shifted slightly. The aliens didn't notice, but the terrorists did. They raised their weapons. Kill the humans first, ordered the leader. That was their mistake. Chen moved faster than anyone expected. His sidearm appeared in his hand like magic, and the terrorist leader dropped before he could finish speaking. The other humans acted at the same moment, each one already knowing their target. The fight lasted 12 seconds. When the shooting stopped, 20 terrorists lay dead on the floor. Not one human had been hit. The aliens stared in shock at what they had just witnessed. The peaceful species from Earth had just destroyed an entire Purge Brotherhood cell without hesitation. Security teams, this is Captain Chen. He spoke into his communicator. Main hall is secure. Beginning sweep of remaining sectors. Captain, Vasquez said quietly. Standard protocol? Standard protocol, he confirmed. More explosions echoed through the station as human security teams found and eliminated the remaining terrorists. The aliens listened to the sounds of battle moving through the corridors, but it was different from what they expected. No long firefights or desperate struggles, just short, sharp encounters that ended quickly. How did you know where they were? Asked General Thix, his warrior's respect clear in his voice. We memorized the station layout when we arrived, Chen replied. Standard procedure. In 3 hours? Basic reconnaissance, another human said. Always know your environment. Station security finally arrived at the main hall, but the fighting was already over. The human teams had cleared every sector where terrorists were hiding. Total time from first explosion to all clear, 18 minutes. Impossible, whispered a Korthak merchant. The Purge Brotherhood has never been defeated this quickly. They've never faced humans before, Vasquez said simply. In the hours that followed, alien investigators tried to understand what had happened. The humans had acted without orders, without permission, without any authority except their own judgment. They had killed without hesitation and shown no interest in taking prisoners. Why didn't you try to negotiate? Asked Korveth as medical teams removed the bodies. Vasquez looked at him with genuine confusion. Negotiate with terrorists? Why would we do that? To save lives. To find peaceful solutions. The peaceful solution was stopping them before they killed anyone else, Chen said. As news of the attack spread across the galaxy, something else spread with it. The Purge Brotherhood had been stopped cold by a species most aliens considered primitive. The humans had done in minutes what the Confederation had failed to do in decades. In hidden bases across the galaxy, other Purge Brotherhood cells received new intelligence reports about the humans. The reports were marked with a single word that had never appeared in their files before. Dangerous. The aftermath of the terrorist attack on Nexus Prime sent shockwaves through the galaxy, while medical teams treated the wounded and engineers repaired damaged sections. The real shock was just beginning. The humans had done something unprecedented. They had eliminated an entire Purge Brotherhood cell without losing a single person. In the main conference room, representatives from across the galaxy gathered for an emergency session. The formal membership ceremony had been forgotten. Now everyone wanted to know who these humans really were. 17 confirmed kills, reported Chief Inspector Vex, a Korthak security officer. All terrorists eliminated with precise headshots. No wounded, no prisoners. High Ambassador Korveth shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The Zilani had built their civilization on diplomacy and peaceful resolution. What the humans had done violated every principle his people held sacred. Did you not consider capturing them for questioning? He asked Vasquez. They were shooting at innocent people, she replied. The time for questions ended when they chose violence. General Thix leaned forward. The Vax warrior had fought in dozens of battles, but even he was impressed by the humans' efficiency. Your soldiers moved like they had rehearsed this exact scenario, Captain Chen answered without emotion. We rehearse every possible scenario. That's what training means. But how could you know the station layout so precisely? Demanded Inspector Vex. You arrived only hours before the attack. Standard procedure, Chen repeated. When we dock at any station or land on any planet, we map everything. Exits, security systems, weak points, defensive positions. Basic survival technique, the aliens exchanged glances. Most species relied on their hosts to provide security and information. The idea of secretly mapping every location they visited seemed almost paranoid. "Do you do this everywhere you go?" asked Dr. Feline, a Zilani scientist. "Everywhere," confirmed Chen. "Would you enter a building without knowing where the exits are?" "Most civilized species trust their hosts," Corvette said carefully. "Trust is earned," Vasquez replied. "Preparation keeps you alive while you're earning it." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans didn't just visit new places. They studied them like potential battlefields. Every human who traveled to alien worlds was essentially conducting military reconnaissance. "I'm curious about your equipment," General Thix said, changing the subject. "Your weapons appeared very quickly." Chen lifted his jacket slightly, revealing a holster that seemed to be part of his clothing. "Integrated carry system. Weapon is always accessible but never visible." "All of your people are armed?" asked Inspector Vex with alarm. "All of our people are prepared," Vasquez corrected. "We hope we never need weapons, but we never travel without them." This revelation disturbed the aliens even more. Most species had strict rules about weapons on diplomatic missions. Armed guards were normal, but arming every member of a delegation was unheard of. "Do you not trust galactic security?" Corvette asked. "Galactic security took 43 minutes to respond to the attack," Chen observed. "We had neutralized the threat in 18. Our security protocols prioritize negotiation and minimal casualties," defended Inspector Vex. "Your protocols prioritize the wrong things," Chen said bluntly. "The terrorists didn't want to negotiate. They wanted to kill people, so we killed them first." As the debate continued, encrypted messages flowed across the galaxy. Intelligence services from every major power were sharing information about the humans. The picture that emerged was troubling for some, reassuring for others. Humanity had been peaceful in their expansion, but they had never been pacifist. Every human colony was fortified. Every human ship carried military-grade weapons. Every human citizen received basic combat training. They called it civic duty. "They're preparing for war," concluded Admiral Kex in a private meeting with other Vax commanders. "The question is, war with whom?" replied General Thix. "Maybe war with everyone," suggested another officer. But that assessment missed the point entirely. Humans weren't preparing for war. They were preparing for survival. After millennia of fighting each other, they had learned that the only way to guarantee peace was to make the cost of aggression too high to pay. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the surviving Purge Brotherhood cells received disturbing reports. The attack on Nexus Prime had been perfectly planned and executed. They had studied Confederation response times, security protocols, and defensive positions for months. Everything had gone exactly as expected until the humans got involved. 17 dead, 0 prisoners, read Cell Leader Vorth as he reviewed the intelligence report. The humans didn't even try to capture anyone alive. "Maybe they're like the Vax," suggested his lieutenant. "Warriors who respect strength." "No," Vorth shook his head. "The Vax fight with honor and follow rules of combat. They take prisoners, they treat wounded enemies, they negotiate surrenders. The humans just eliminated." The report included video footage from the station's security cameras. Vorth watched the attack unfold and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. The humans moved like machines, each one knowing exactly what to do without orders or communication. They shot to kill, not to wound or disable. They showed no hesitation, no mercy, no second thoughts. "Send word to all cells," Vorth ordered. "Avoid human targets until further notice." "Sir, the humans are exactly the kind of inferior species we're meant to purge." "Those inferior species just wiped out our best strike team in 18 minutes, Vorth snapped. "We need to understand what we're dealing with before we make another move." Back on Nexus Prime, the emergency session was reaching its conclusion. The aliens had learned more about humanity in one day than in 3 years of previous contact. The picture wasn't what anyone had expected. "Your membership application," Corvette began carefully. "Perhaps we should discuss some modifications to the standard treaty." "No modifications needed," Vasquez interrupted. "We're prepared to accept standard membership terms. But your military capabilities, your weapons policies, your approach to conflict resolution will remain unchanged," she finished. "We're not asking to join your confederation to become like you. We're offering to join as we are. General Thix smiled grimly. He understood what the humans were really saying. They weren't asking for protection or seeking to hide behind galactic law. They were offering their services as protectors. And if other Confederation members object to your methods, asked Dr. Feline, then they're free to handle their own security, Chen replied. We'll protect ourselves and anyone who wants our protection. Everyone else can take care of themselves. Inspector Vex pulled up a star chart showing recent Purge Brotherhood activities. There have been 17 attacks in the past year, all successful. They always escape before security arrives. Not anymore, Vasquez said quietly. The statement hung in the air like a promise. The humans weren't just joining the Confederation as another member species. They were joining as exterminators, ready to eliminate threats that others couldn't or wouldn't face. As the session ended, each delegation returned to their ships with much to consider. The galaxy was about to change, and not everyone was sure they were ready for what came next. In her private quarters, Vasquez reviewed the day's events. Chen knocked and entered carrying 2 cups of coffee. Think they'll accept us? He asked. They don't have much choice, she replied. The galaxy is full of predators. They need someone willing to hunt the hunters, and if they don't like our methods? Vasquez sipped her coffee and smiled coldly. Then they'll learn to appreciate the results. 3 days after the Nexus Prime attack, the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. The Purge Brotherhood's perfect record of successful terrorist operations had been broken by a species most aliens considered newcomers. But the real shock was yet to come. Deep space monitoring stations across the Confederation detected something unprecedented. Human ships were moving. Not just a few vessels, but entire fleets departing from human space in different directions. The ships moved with purpose, heading toward specific coordinates that matched no known trade routes or exploration missions. Admiral Korth of the Zilani Defense Fleet watched the sensor data with growing concern. 18 separate human task forces, each heading to different systems. What are they doing? His intelligence officer, Commander Vess, compared the human fleet movements with classified security reports. Her face went pale as the pattern became clear. Sir, these coordinates, they match suspected Purge Brotherhood locations from our classified files. Impossible. Those locations are top secret, known only to Confederation intelligence services. The humans are heading directly for them. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place in government buildings and military headquarters. The humans weren't just responding to the Nexus Prime attack. They were launching a coordinated strike against the entire Purge Brotherhood network. In the Korthak Commercial Council chambers, Director Mech studied the economic implications. If the humans eliminate the Purge Brotherhood, it will save us billions in security costs and insurance claims. But how did they locate targets that our best intelligence services couldn't find? Asked his aide. Maybe they've been watching longer than we thought. On the Vax Empire's capital world, General Thix met with the Supreme Commander. The Vax military was impressed but also concerned about human capabilities. They're moving like they've been planning this for years, Thix reported. Simultaneous strikes on 17 different locations across Confederation space. Do we have any ships in those systems? Asked the Supreme Commander. 3 patrol fleets all far from the human targets. Pull them back. Let's see what these humans can do when they're not protecting diplomats. The first human task force arrived at Kepler Station 72 hours after leaving human space. The station was officially listed as a mining facility, but Confederation intelligence suspected it was a Purge Brotherhood recruiting center. They had been monitoring it for months without finding enough evidence for action. The humans didn't need evidence. Captain Sarah Wong commanded the human task force from the bridge of the destroyer Shenzhen. Her ships had traveled in complete radio silence, using navigation data that shouldn't have existed. Passive scans complete, reported her sensor officer. 47 ships docked at the station. 12 match Purge Brotherhood vessel signatures from the Nexus Prime database. Any response to our arrival? They're scrambling fighters and raising shields. Standard defensive posture. Wong nodded. The terrorists were reacting exactly as expected. They probably thought this was a Confederation patrol that could be intimidated or bribed into leaving. All ships, weapons free. Primary objective is elimination of all Purge Brotherhood assets. Secondary objective is securing any intelligence data. Ma'am, what about Confederation law regarding engagement protocols? Wong smiled coldly. We're not Confederation members yet. Confederation law doesn't apply to us. The battle for Kepler Station lasted 8 minutes. Human weapons technology proved superior to anything the terrorists possessed. More importantly, human tactics were designed for decisive results, not prolonged engagement. When the shooting stopped, 12 terrorist ships were debris, and the station was under human control. The remaining civilian vessels were allowed to leave after quick inspections. None of them carried weapons or terrorist personnel. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as human task forces struck at Purge Brotherhood facilities with surgical precision. Each attack followed the same pattern: arrive without warning, identify targets with impossible accuracy, eliminate threats with overwhelming force, secure intelligence, and depart. The aliens watched in amazement as decades-old terrorist hideouts were discovered and destroyed in a matter of hours. The humans seemed to know exactly where to look and what to target. How did they find these locations? Demanded High Ambassador Corveth during an emergency session of the Confederation Council. Ambassador Vasquez attended via holographic link from her ship, which was heading toward another suspected terrorist site. We've been tracking the Purge Brotherhood since our first contact with Confederation species, she explained calmly. 3 years ago? But you weren't even Confederation members. We didn't need to be members to recognize a threat to galactic peace. The admission stunned the alien delegates. Humans had been conducting intelligence operations across Confederation space for years, identifying and cataloging terrorist activities without anyone knowing. This is a violation of sovereignty, protested Inspector Vex. No, Vasquez corrected. This is pest control. General Thix leaned forward. You've been spying on all Confederation members for 3 years? We've been gathering information about potential threats to human interests, she replied diplomatically. The fact that these threats were also targeting Confederation citizens was convenient. Dr. Feline spoke up nervously. What other intelligence have you gathered? Everything, Vasquez said simply. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. The humans had been watching everyone, cataloging strengths and weaknesses, mapping defenses and vulnerabilities. They knew more about Confederation military capabilities than most Confederation officers. This changes our entire relationship, Corveth said slowly. No, it clarifies it, Vasquez replied. We're not asking to join as junior partners or helpless refugees. We're offering to join as equals who bring useful capabilities to the table. The holographic display updated to show the latest results from human operations. 8 more Purge Brotherhood facilities had been eliminated in the past hour. The terrorist network that had plagued the galaxy for decades was being systematically destroyed. Your operations are remarkably efficient, observed General Thix with professional admiration. We don't believe in half measures, Vasquez replied. When you decide to solve a problem, you solve it completely. Admiral Korth raised a concerning point. What happens when you run out of terrorists to eliminate? Then the galaxy becomes a safer place for everyone. But your military forces, your intelligence networks, your capabilities, what happens to those? Vasquez smiled, and for the first time it seemed genuinely friendly rather than predatory. They get used to protect Confederation members instead of hunting Confederation enemies. The implications were clear. Humans weren't just joining the Confederation. They were offering to become its enforcers. The species that other aliens had dismissed as primitive newcomers were revealing themselves as the most effective military force the galaxy had ever seen. There's something else, Vasquez continued. Our operations have uncovered intelligence about Purge Brotherhood plans. They weren't just planning random attacks. A new display appeared showing intercepted terrorist communications and battle plans. The aliens read in horror as the scope of the planned attacks became clear. Simultaneous strikes on 12 Confederation capital worlds, Dr. Feline whispered. They were planning to decapitate the entire government. The attack on Nexus Prime was meant to test Confederation response times, Vasquez explained. Once they confirmed that security forces were slow to react, they planned to launch coordinated attacks that would kill millions. The room fell silent as the delegates realized how close they had come to disaster. The humans hadn't just prevented future terrorist attacks. They had prevented the collapse of galactic civilization. When were these attacks scheduled? Asked Corveth quietly. Next week. General Thix stood up slowly. You saved us all. We protected our interests, Vasquez corrected. It just happens that our interests include a stable, peaceful galaxy. As the session ended, each delegate returned to their ships with a new understanding of the humans. They weren't just another species seeking Confederation membership. They were the apex predators of the galaxy, and they had just chosen to hunt on behalf of civilization instead of against it. In her quarters aboard the human flagship, Captain Chen reviewed operational reports from the 17 task forces. The Purge Brotherhood was finished as an effective organization. A few scattered cells might survive, but their command structure, supply lines, and major bases were all eliminated. Think we impressed them? He asked Vasquez. I think we terrified them, she replied. But sometimes fear is the beginning of respect. And if they decide we're too dangerous to accept as members? Vasquez looked out at the stars where human ships continued their patrol patterns around Confederation space. Then they'll learn that it's better to have us inside the Confederation than outside it. The complete destruction of the Purge Brotherhood sent shockwaves through the galactic underworld. In hidden stations and secret meetings across Confederation space, criminal leaders gathered to discuss the new reality. The humans had demonstrated something that changed everything. They could find anyone, anywhere, anytime. Crime boss Vec the Destroyer had built his smuggling empire over 3 decades by staying one step ahead of Confederation law enforcement. His network stretched across 50 star systems, moving contraband and stolen goods through carefully planned routes. He considered himself untouchable. That confidence evaporated when he received a simple message on his private communication channel. Your operations have been cataloged. Cease all activities within Confederation space within 72 hours, or join the Purge Brotherhood in extinction. Human Diplomatic Corps. How did they even find this frequency? Vec demanded of his chief of security. Unknown, sir. This channel was encrypted with Korthak military-grade security. And they know about all our operations? His security chief hesitated before answering. The message included detailed logs of our last 15 smuggling runs, including cargo manifests and destination coordinates. They know everything. Similar messages were received by criminal organizations across the galaxy. Pirates, smugglers, illegal arms dealers, slave traders, all discovered that their secret operations were no longer secret. The humans had been watching and cataloging criminal activity for years. Most chose to comply immediately. Captain Rex Blackscar of the pirate fleet Blood Tide chose to ignore the warning. His ships had terrorized merchant vessels for over a decade, and no Confederation patrol had ever been able to catch him. He wasn't about to be intimidated by a species that had only left their home system 3 years ago. Humans are soft, he told his crew. They're diplomats and traders, not warriors. We take one of their merchant ships hostage, they'll back down like all the others. The Blood Tide fleet intercepted a human cargo vessel near the Rigel system. The ship appeared to be carrying agricultural supplies to a Confederation colony. Perfect prey for pirates who wanted to send a message. Human vessel, this is Captain Blackscar of the Blood Tide. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the execution of your crew. The response came immediately. Pirate vessel, this is Captain Jennifer Martinez of the merchant ship Harvest Moon. You have 30 seconds to withdraw before we consider you a hostile target. Blackscar laughed. You're outnumbered 4 to 1, human. Surrender now and we might let some of your crew live. 20 seconds. Attack the human ship, Blackscar ordered. Disable their engines, but keep the crew alive. They'll make good examples. The pirate ships opened fire with weapons designed to cripple rather than destroy. They expected the human merchant to surrender immediately like every other victim. Instead, the cargo ship's hull plating fell away like flower petals, revealing military-grade armor and weapon systems. What had appeared to be a helpless merchant vessel was actually a heavily armed warship in disguise. What the hell? Blackscar shouted as his flagship's shields collapsed under precise weapons fire. The battle lasted 3 minutes. When it ended, the Blood Tide fleet was space debris and Captain Blackscar was sending a final message. How did you know we would be here? We've been tracking your movements for 18 months, Martinez replied calmly. We knew your patrol routes, your preferred targets, and your attack patterns. This trap was set specifically for you. But you're just merchants. No, Martinez corrected as escape pods launched from the destroyed pirate ships. We're humans. There's a difference. The destruction of the Blood Tide fleet sent another message through criminal networks. The humans weren't just watching, they were actively hunting. More importantly, They were using tactics that no one had seen before. Every human merchant ship in Confederation space was potentially a warship in disguise. Every human diplomatic mission was potentially a military intelligence operation. Every human colony was potentially a forward military base. The aliens were beginning to understand that humanity didn't separate civilian and military activities the way other species did. In the Korthak Commercial Council, Director Mex reviewed shipping reports with growing amazement. Piracy in Confederation space has dropped by 70% in the past month. The humans have eliminated 12 major pirate organizations, his aide reported. How? Our anti-piracy patrols have been trying to catch these criminals for years. The humans use different methods. They don't patrol hoping to catch pirates in the act. They study pirate behavior, predict where they'll attack and set traps. Mex shook his head in wonder. They think like predators, sir. Most species try to prevent crime by making it harder to commit. The humans prevent crime by making it fatal to attempt. The change was noticeable throughout Confederation space. Merchant vessels no longer traveled in armed convoys because the trade routes were safe. Colonies stopped requesting military protection because criminal raids had simply stopped happening. Even the Vax Empire noticed that their border patrol duties had become routine rather than dangerous. General Thix met with his intelligence staff to analyze the new security situation. Illegal weapons trafficking down 80%. Slave trading operations completely eliminated. Even minor theft and fraud are decreasing. The humans are sending a clear message, his intelligence chief explained. Any criminal activity in Confederation space will be met with lethal force. But they're not Confederation members yet. They have no legal authority to enforce Confederation law. They're not enforcing Confederation law, sir. They're enforcing human law. And human law is simple. Protect innocence. Eliminate threats. The Zalani government struggled with the ethical implications of human methods. High Ambassador Korveth called for another emergency session to address the situation. The humans are operating outside legal frameworks, he argued. They're judge, jury, and executioner without oversight or accountability. Ambassador Vasquez attended the session from her flagship, which was patrolling the space lanes around Confederation capital worlds. Would you prefer we allow criminal organizations to continue their operations? She asked. We prefer due process, trials, proper legal procedures. How many years have Confederation courts been trying to prosecute the crime boss Vec the Destroyer? Korveth checked his files. 17 years. We've never been able to gather enough evidence. He surrendered to Confederation authorities yesterday and confessed to all charges rather than risk human enforcement action. The admission was stunning. Criminals who had evaded Confederation justice for decades were voluntarily surrendering rather than face human retribution. This isn't justice, Dr. Feline protested. This is intimidation. This is effectiveness, Vasquez replied. Your justice system protects the rights of criminals better than it protects the rights of victims. General Thix leaned forward. Are you saying Confederation law is inadequate? I'm saying Confederation law is designed for civilized people who respect rules and social contracts. It doesn't work against those who reject civilization entirely. The debate continued for hours, but the results spoke for themselves. Crime rates across Confederation space had dropped to levels not seen in centuries. Merchant shipping operated without armed escorts. Colony worlds reported feeling safe for the first time in generations. Inspector Vex raised a practical concern. What happens when criminals adapt to your methods? When they develop countermeasures? Vasquez smiled coldly. Then we adapt too. The difference is we adapt faster. As if to prove her point, reports came in of 3 more criminal organizations voluntarily disbanding rather than risk human attention. Word was spreading through the underworld. The humans weren't just another law enforcement agency. They were extinction specialists. The session ended with a unanimous but reluctant agreement. Confederation membership for humanity would be fast-tracked, not because the aliens fully trusted human methods, but because they couldn't afford to have such effective protectors operating outside official channels. Later that day, Captain Chen reviewed operational reports in his private office. The galaxy was becoming safer by the hour, as criminal organizations either surrendered or faced elimination. Any word from the Confederation Council? He asked his aide. They're fast-tracking our membership application. Should be finalized within the week. Chen nodded. And the remaining criminal organizations? Most are fleeing Confederation space entirely. The few that remain are laying low and hoping we don't notice them. We notice everything, Chen said quietly. Send word to all task force commanders. Phase 2 begins as soon as our membership is confirmed. Phase 2, sir? Chen looked out at the stars where human ships maintained their invisible watch over galactic civilization, preventing future threats before they develop into current problems. The galaxy was learning that humans didn't just react to danger. They anticipated it, planned for it, and eliminated it before it could grow. Criminal organizations that had taken decades to build were being dismantled in days. More importantly, new criminal organizations were choosing not to form at all. Peace through superior firepower wasn't just a human military doctrine. It was becoming galactic reality. 6 months after the Nexus Prime incident, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood at the podium in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Confederation. The massive chamber held representatives from 300 member species, all gathered to witness something unprecedented: the formal induction of humanity as a full member with Special Security Council status. The hall was different now, brighter somehow. The constant tension that had shadowed Confederation politics for decades was gone. Delegates who once traveled with armed escorts now arrived with minimal security. The fear that had lurked behind every diplomatic smile had been replaced by something approaching genuine optimism. Honored representatives, Vasquez began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. 6 months ago, humanity requested membership in your confederation as newcomers seeking guidance and protection. Today, we stand before you as partners ready to share in both the privileges and responsibilities of galactic citizenship. The response was immediate and unanimous. Every delegate rose in applause, but there were different reasons behind the enthusiasm. Some applauded from gratitude, others from relief, and a few from carefully concealed apprehension. High Ambassador Korveth gestured for silence. The vote on human membership was unanimous, he announced. But more than that, the Confederation Council has created a new position specifically for humanity: the Department of Galactic Security Enforcement. The applause continued, but Vasquez noticed the subtle body language of various delegates. The Korthek merchants were enthusiastic. Safe trade routes meant higher profits. The Zalani diplomats applauded politely while maintaining careful expressions. The Vax military representatives showed genuine respect, warrior to warrior. General Thick stepped forward. In my 40 years of military service, I have never seen such effective security operations. Human methods are direct, but they produce results that speak for themselves. He activated a holographic display showing crime statistics across Confederation space. The numbers were staggering. Piracy down 94%. Illegal weapons trafficking eliminated entirely. Slave trading operations completely destroyed. Even minor crimes like theft and fraud had dropped to historical lows. These results were achieved not through increased patrols or enhanced penalties, Thix continued, but through the simple knowledge that criminal activity will be met with swift and certain consequences. Dr. Feline, representing the Zalani scientific community, raised a tentative question. Ambassador Vasquez, your methods have been undeniably effective, but some are concerned about the finality of your enforcement actions. Vasquez nodded understandingly. Doctor, let me ask you something. When you discover a cancer in a patient's body, do you negotiate with it? Do you try to rehabilitate it? Do you sentence it to prison? Well, no. We remove it completely. Exactly. Criminal organizations that prey on innocent civilians are a cancer on galactic society. We remove them completely. The analogy was stark but effective. Even species that preferred diplomatic solutions could understand the medical necessity of removing diseased tissue to save the healthy body. Inspector Vex spoke up from the Korthak delegation. But what about due process? Legal rights? The presumption of innocence? Those protections exist for citizens who respect the social contract, Vasquez replied. When someone chooses to operate outside that contract by threatening innocent lives, they forfeit those protections. Who decides where that line is drawn? Pressed Dr. Feline. For the first time, Vasquez smiled genuinely rather than diplomatically. Results decide. 6 months ago, merchant vessels traveled in armed convoys and still lost 20% of their cargo to pirates. Today, unarmed civilian ships travel freely throughout Confederation space. Which system better protects innocent lives? The question hung in the air unanswered because the answer was obvious to everyone present. Captain Chen entered the hall and approached the podium, carrying a datapad. He whispered something to Vasquez, who nodded and turned back to the assembly. I've just received word that the last known Purge Brotherhood cell has been eliminated. The terrorist organization that plagued the galaxy for 37 years no longer exists. The applause was thunderous this time, but Chen raised his hand for silence. More importantly, he continued, we've received surrender offers from the Crimson Syndicate, the Shadow Fleet, and the Black Star Cartel. 3 of the galaxy's largest remaining criminal organizations have chosen to disband rather than face human enforcement action. Admiral Korth leaned forward with interest. They're voluntarily disbanding? Without any direct confrontation? Word travels fast in criminal circles, Chen replied. They've learned that continued operations in Confederation space means certain death, while surrender means possible rehabilitation through Confederation justice systems. It was a masterful diplomatic answer. The humans were giving criminal organizations a choice: face human justice, which meant elimination, or face Confederation justice, which meant prison but survival. Most were choosing Confederation courts. This brings up an important point, Vasquez continued. Humanity doesn't seek to replace Confederation legal systems. We seek to supplement them. For civilized disputes and civil crimes, Confederation courts are perfectly adequate. For those who reject civilization entirely, different methods are required. Director Mex of the Korthak Commercial Council stood up. Ambassador, what are humanity's plans for maintaining this level of security? Will human forces remain permanently deployed throughout Confederation space? Our forces will remain as long as they're needed and wanted, Vasquez replied. But our goal isn't permanent military occupation. Our goal is permanent peace through deterrence. She activated her own holographic display, showing human patrol routes and response capabilities. Every inhabited system in Confederation space is now within 18 hours of a human rapid response force. Every major trade route is monitored continuously. Every potential threat is identified and tracked before it can develop into an actual danger. General Thick studied the display with professional interest. Your coverage is remarkably comprehensive. How many ships does this require? Fewer than you might think, Chen answered. When criminals know they face certain elimination, most choose not to become criminals in the first place. Prevention is more efficient than reaction. Dr. Feline raised another concern. What about new threats? Unknown dangers that might emerge from unexplored space? Vasquez exchanged a look with Chen before answering. Doctor, humanity has been preparing for unknown threats since we first looked up at the stars. We don't just react to dangers, we anticipate them. How can you anticipate unknown threats? By preparing for everything, Chen said simply. Every human colony includes defensive installations. Every human ship carries military-grade sensors and weapons. Every human citizen receives basic combat training. We hope we never need these preparations, but we're ready if we do. The implications were clear. Humanity wasn't just offering to protect the Confederation from current threats. They were offering protection from future threats that might not even exist. Yet High Ambassador Korveth called for the formal vote on Humanity's Security Council appointment. The result was unanimous, but several delegates requested private meetings with human representatives after the ceremony. As the assembly disbanded, groups of aliens approached Vasquez and Chen with various concerns and questions. Most were supportive, but some had reservations about human methods. Your approach is very different from ours, admitted a Zelani cultural attaché. We've always believed in rehabilitation rather than elimination. Rehabilitation works for those who want to be rehabilitated, Vasquez replied gently. But what do you do with those who prefer to prey on others? We try to understand their motivations and address the root causes of their behavior. Chen spoke up. While you're understanding their motivations, how many innocent people die? How many children are sold into slavery? How many colonies are raided and destroyed? The questions were uncomfortable but necessary. The Confederation's idealistic approach to justice had allowed criminal organizations to flourish for decades, while bureaucrats debated proper procedures. Later that evening, Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the human flagship, looking out at the stars. The galaxy looked the same as it had 6 months ago, but everything had changed. Children played safely on colony worlds that had once lived in fear. Merchant crews traveled without weapons because they no longer needed them. Scientists explored new systems without worrying about pirate attacks. Chen joined her at the observation window. Any regrets about how we handled things? None, she replied without hesitation. The Confederation needed protectors and we needed allies. Everyone got what they needed. Even if some of them are afraid of us? Vasquez smiled. Fear can be the beginning of respect, and respect can be the beginning of genuine friendship. What about future threats, things we haven't anticipated? Then we'll adapt and overcome just like we always have. That's what humans do. In the distance, human patrol ships maintained their silent vigil over galactic civilization, unseen, unheard, but always present. The galaxy was learning to sleep peacefully under their protection.